Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Comic Book Spotlight. I'm your host, Chris with the Most. Here on Comic Book Spotlight, we have a very, very special guest. I I hear the audio back here. Excuse me, everyone, while I take care of that. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Comic Book Spotlight. I'm your host. We had a little technical difficulty. Sorry about that. But let's get things started. Let's a little bit here in the chat. And we got hello from Talib. We also have Lou Corso. I'm sorry I butchered your name. Shout out from the FFC Open Mic. Have a great stream. Also, good friends from Figure Fight Club. Have a good stream, brother. They're streaming at the same time we're streaming. Also, Headcanon Unlimited. Hey, have a great show. Thank you very much, guys. And so, here's the intro for our next guest.
Joining us tonight on Comic Book Spotlight, hey, Archer from Nerd Affiliated.
How you doing, Archer?
Hey,
welcome to Comic Book Spotlight.
That is quite an intro. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we do the best for the people. You have a great YouTube channel, and I just want to highlight it a little bit here for everybody and the thing. So please follow Nerd Affiliated. There is the YouTube little link there. It's a great channel. I watch it all the time. Every Thursday night. Am I correct, Archer? Every
8:15-ish. Yep.
8:15-ish. And I love it because you have such charisma.
Wow.
And I love when you come on, you make everybody feel welcome. You know?
That is good to hear. That is the goal.
I feel like I'm coming into someone's house and we're having a big party.
Yes.
So,
yes.
How are you doing today?
Doing good. Still trying to recover from Ghostbusters Day weekend, but overall, it's quite a high. If anybody gets a chance, if you've not gone to it, definitely go to it. But feeling pretty good.
And I definitely saw the videos that you showed at Ghostbuster. I guess we call it day, or we can call it month, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a great celebration, and it's awesome that they kept the fire station still there.
Yeah.
You know, and
because it's a real fire station.
Yeah, real fire station. And didn't they at one point we're going to tear it down?
Probably in true New York City fashion, they probably were like, "Oh, we can put a high rise there or something." But it actually used to be a bigger building, so it was. When you look at the firehouse, there's like the one main fire door and like the one kind of like narrow building, but it actually used to be double with two doors, and they ended up knocking down half of it, and then after they knocked down one half, they were like, "Oh, this isn't the right spot," and they ended up picking up the whole building and moving it over to where it is now, which is where that other part was essentially they knocked down. So. That is that is truly New York City type of tendencies.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do we know who saved this building?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Oh.
Other than a historical society.
I was hoping it was one of the Ghostbuster clubs that came in and said, "Hey, we raised some money. Here you go. We want to keep it."
Well, I mean, Ghostbusters Day is something that was started by the clubs. So, maybe there was people that were fans that caught wind of it back in the day and made sure that it, continued to operate.
Hmm. And they can, if people don't know, you have lots of links to your media, which we
Mhm.
did put in our kind of introduction down below in the YouTube media comment section. I highlighted all your links. So
Awesome. Thank you.
if people want to click on the little tab down below in the chat and they can see your wide array of nerd affiliated.
Awesome.
I thought we would just get into looking at your website if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I'm going to share that with everybody. Just give me 1 second. Let me know when you see it.
I see your browser.
Yes. And let's see. Okay. I know where I went wrong. Here we go.
And
Right
don't
here.
worry, tech difficulties are part of my show too. So it's
Yes.
a rite of passage.
Yes. Here is your channel. Is it showing?
Nope, I still see the other screen.
Okay. We're going to have to stop sharing that one. Have to reshare. Oh my God.
Oh, I just messed up something. What did I do here?
I'm tired now. Chrome. There. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There is your. There we got. We got it.
There you go. There you go. There's the YouTube
And
channel.
there is your YouTube channel.
Mhm.
Let me get us all set up there. It is way up there, guys, up in the top section. I love it. It's got a lot of videos. It's really a nice channel that you have. It's really well put together, I should say.
Yeah, it's a labor of love, they say. 'Cause I mean, I had my notification that had been my channel's been going for 10 years. And
10 years. Wow.
yeah. So it's one of those things where I'm still trying to figure out how to do this, because 10 years in, only having 2,000 subscribers seems kind of crazy. But
Mhm.
I love doing it, and it's one of those that I'm just trying to find my voice as far as the algorithm goes, as far as YouTube goes, and
Right.
as far as people just enjoying the content too. So
Yeah.
it's a fun process.
Yes. And I didn't know you were on YouTube for that long. 10 years is a long time.
It was, I mean, I'm going to say that it was maybe 7 of those years were consistent.
Hmm.
6 or 7 of those were, being really active. The first 3 were probably, there's breaks of a couple months in there or a couple weeks in there. Because originally it wasn't even nerd affiliated. It was the Hey Archer channel.
Right.
And then just as it evolved, that's where we got to where we are now.
Yeah. And it's I can see it's very well put together. And what was I going to say? Oh, my good friend Jay Bartlett. I don't know if you ever see any of the gaming streams that are on YouTube.
I'm not familiar with him.
He had started during the pandemic when they were doing. He was doing figure reviews with Rob McCollum, and Jay Bartlett had done what is called Nintendo Quest. You ever seen that on Amazon Prime?
No. It's a show?
It's it was a show, and it was broadcast in Canada first, and then once Amazon saw that people really liked it, they brought it over to Amazon Prime, and you can basically download the whole season, buy it, watch it. It's also, if you have Amazon Prime membership, it's free to watch.
Oh.
But he did 30 days not using the internet to buy the whole collection of Nintendo NES.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. 30 days, went all over the from Canada to, I guess, LA, um, different parts of the world. Well, not the world, the United States, sorry.
Mhm.
United States. And he didn't make his goal. At
Yeah,
the
that's
end,
a tough one.
there was this one person that didn't want to give him the game that he needed.
Mm,
He got every other game,
except the one.
but except one. And then towards the end of it, um, he goes to the guy and goes, "Look, I just want to buy it," and the guy wouldn't give it to him, so he had to go to another guy to get. I think it was a speed and track game
Mm,
to finalize his collection,
mm,
and now he's doing like Josh Pepper says. Let me highlight it.
yeah.
He's doing Nintendo 64 quests, and that's a mini series, and I think they just finished completing that about a month back ago.
I
But
imagine that one's an easier one to do because of just time. Like, when 64 came out, Nintendo was on the map versus when Nintendo came out, they were just starting and, limited print runs and all that stuff.
But as I was saying, he reached a goal 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and he just got a plaque.
Nice.
So we all strive to, as YouTube creators, to meet that goal, to get that plaque, and the success, and it's just great. But like I said, I feel like when I go on your channel, you're talking to everybody. You're dealing with the chat. You're dealing with what you're talking about. It might be a movie. It might be figures. It might be Ghostbusters. It might be whatever it is you're talking about. You engage everybody, and that's what I
Yeah.
like about your channel. Not a lot of people want today as creators are engaging their people. And Josh says also, next up is Super NES Quest. So,
That's awesome. No, and I appreciate that. That is the goal. I mean, every time I'm doing the stream, and that's where it gets hard. Like this past week, you saw I had 3 guests on, and it was a lot of fun. But when I have especially that many people, it's hard to engage with the chat as much because I'm trying to also like mentally keep track of where I am and try to give everybody equal time talking and whatnot. So
right.
I feel like sometimes having guests on, I wonder if it hurts the viewer experience. But I think too, by keeping it to more of a minimum now than how I used to do it, it kind of balances out.
I didn't mind the guests that you had. You had 3 guests and yourself, and it went pretty smoothly. You were just kind of like a moderator, and just making sure everybody got a chance to speak, which they did. You answered a lot of questions, especially my questions. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm a big Ghostbuster fan. I love Ghostbusters. I remember going to the movie theater when it first came out, and it was me and 2 other friends. Their dad took us to go to the movie theater. It was a double feature. The first one was Ghostbusters. The second one was a James Bond film. I don't remember the name of it, but it had Sean Connery in it.
Oh, okay.
And we watched Ghostbusters first, and we were just sit there amazed at what we were seeing on the screen, and I think everybody was excited. The whole place was packed, and we were in the very front row. And I remember our necks getting stiffed, but I loved everything about Ghostbuster. I liked Bill Murray's character. I liked Dan Aykroyd's character.
Mhm.
I thought it was well written for the time.
For sure. I mean, writing was a not just a priority back then, but they were all comedians, except for Ernie, really. But
Right.
I was telling it to somebody today on a work call. Like I've said it on my stream, so apologize if I'm repeating, but
That's okay.
I'm a newer Ghostbuster fan. Like I only just got into it like 2 years ago. I saw it one time and didn't really care for it. When I was younger, I wasn't allowed to watch it, so I
Mhm.
think that kind of contributed to me not having that kind of connection. But to even going back to an earlier point of like the YouTube channel, cosplay has been my jam forever. And when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to do Halloween, and I think that's why, as an adult, I love cosplay because now I can dress up whenever I want. Um, so in doing research for a Ghostbuster costume to do with Rambling Nerd, actually, I was
Mhm.
like, all right, let me rewatch the movie, watch YouTube videos, and I picked up a book on like the history of Ghostbusters because I knew, if you dress up as something, you have to know some details about the whatever it is you're dressing up as. And in reading about how they got the movie off the ground, I was like, that was like part of the catalyst that made me a fan. It was that and the fans that made me like the movie more than the first time I saw the movie. And when they started it, they were all comedians coming out of the Chicago area, and they built such a friendship, that group, that when Dan Aykroyd got Ivan involved and they were like, all right, we need to cast everybody. He originally, I think John Belushi was supposed to play Bill Murray's character, if I remember.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then when they decided that Bill was going to do it, he literally called him and was like, hey, I'm doing this movie. And Bill was like, all right, I'm in. He's like, I haven't told you about it yet. And he's like, no, I trust you. He's like, I trust you. You're my friend. Your comedy writing is great. So I have no reason to doubt that you're calling me because like, this is the movie to make. So
Mm.
that's also why I make those comments about the writing. Cause back then, like everybody was trying to write the funniest movie they could. And they were trying to write the smartest movie they could.
Yeah.
I feel like nowadays things get rushed so much that the writing is not as important in the eyes of the studio like it used to be.
Yeah. And I want to thank Rambling Nerd for coming in, and he says, "Evening, everybody."
Mhm.
And then this is the movie when I said there was a double feature. Josh Peppers called it straight out. Early 80s, 007, Sean Connery. It would have been Never Say Never Again with Kim
Mhm.
Basinger.
Forgot she's in
So,
that one.
you know why Peppers is so good? He
Mhm.
is a big James Bond fan.
Ah, there you go.
And what else does he say? Yeah, they were all part of Chicago's
Yeah.
Second City.
Yeah, Second City Comedy Club. Yeah.
What else? Actor who played Egon
Mhm.
was unsure if Bill Murray would even show up.
Yeah, because he was so like nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what made that movie was all three of them, not just Bill Murray, not just Dan Aykroyd. I forget the other actors.
Ernie Hudson.
Well, there's Ernie Hudson, and what was the other comedian?
Oh, Harold Ramis.
Harold Ramis, which is no longer with us.
Mhm.
Very sad that he passed away.
Mhm.
Terribly missed. I feel like Dan Aykroyd should come back and write more Ghostbuster movies instead of handing it off to somebody else.
He's been asked that a bunch of times, and the last interview I saw when they were doing promo for Frozen Empire, or not the last interview, but one of the last ones where he was talking about the subject. They asked him a question along the lines of like, suiting up and like, do you suit up like enough in the movie, that kind of thing. And he's of the mindset now that like, it's not his anymore. He's like, I created this thing and I love it, but what I made, I made that movie, I made that the characters, and now it's like the next generation, actually two generations, I guess, in some senses, it's their, Ghostbusters. But I also think that from that book, what he wrote, it did change a lot to what we got. And he's a huge um believer of like the occult and conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So I think even if he had the ability to write a movie, he would almost write it too far into that realm that the comedy might start to dwindle a bit. So it might be one of those where it's better that he's not as involved anymore, but he feels like he passed the torch.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think it was okay to do a female version of Ghostbusters, but
Mhm.
I felt like they were doing too much of the original Ghostbusters and trying to not, instead of making it their own, they made it too much. Here's a female version of the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I mean, that's Hollywood now, right? Isn't that everything now has to be a remake? I have
Yeah.
Force Awakens remake of New Hope.
Yeah.
It's everywhere now.
Yeah. And it's a shame that Hollywood now is just saying, "Oh, we're going to just do remakes. We're just going to take an old classic movie that people love,
Mhm.
and we're going to do it over again, but we're going to do our version of that
Mhm.
particular movie."
Mhm.
And I've even heard that I hope it never happens, but I'm pretty sure it won't. That they want to redo Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Yep.
16 Candles,
Yep.
and The Breakfast Club.
And they keep fighting to try to do Back to the Future.
Right. And that's not going to happen, I heard.
No, the creators are like, you're not doing this.
Yeah. It's disrespecting the talent, the director, the production, and the people that were in Back to the Future. It's just
I will play devil's advocate for a second.
okay.
I remember, so in my previous job, I had a lot of college kids that worked for me, and you reach that age where your employees could be like your kids, as far as age goes. And I remember talking to them about movies and music and stuff that they didn't know about because obviously their age. But
Right.
I remember whenever the topic of like the movies we grew up with come up, this generation, maybe because of YouTube and streaming, they have a hard time watching some movies that just look old. Like like Terminator 2 probably is passable, barely, but like other things like Back to the Future, like Ghostbusters, like they look at that and they see the film quality because it was shot on film, and they're just kind of like I can't get into it. And I can get it to a certain extent because there's certain shows I've never watched because like the cinematography wasn't for me. But I wonder if there is a place for remakes in the sense that you can adapt it to the media format as opposed to just going for the going for the money grab on it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you on that aspect. I think I think when Netflix did Beverly Hills Cop, I think it was 4.
Yeah, the Axel movie, whatever.
Even though they brought back all the original cast, someone told me that it was a good attempt, but it wasn't quite there.
The magic's not there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Eddie was trying too hard to make it happen.
Yeah.
It says Josh Pepper says anything 90s is old to them. Before that, the new gen kids are too conditioned to CGI and green screen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to read a little bit to that. I think it's just their mindset is in a different realm because they're all, they grew up with TikTok, they grew up with Instagram, they're in that kind of group, and I think it's hard for them to think outside the box, and they don't want to, listen to classics or listen to their parents about really good movies that have a storyline, has something to it, like Stand By Me. That was a great movie. It had a message. I'm trying to think what other movies.
But what you run into also with stuff like that is at a certain point, a movie is so far from relatable that you
Mhm.
can't connect to it. So like, in the movie Stand By Me, even just the concept that like the kids have to, ride their bikes to meet somewhere, like,
Mhm.
hey, meet me at this time, like that concept's foreign to kids these days. They're just like, all right, where are you? Look at your location. All right, let's meet up right now. Or like all of those little aspects are what, as a kid, and even as an adult, when you're watching certain movies, you can connect to things that you can relate to.
Yeah.
And that's where I think something like Stranger Things is doing a great job, because Stranger Things is, it takes place in the different decades, but it still manages to grab kids, even though there's no connection to how the Stranger Things kids communicate, the technology they're using, or anything of the sort. So it's I could see both sides from time to time. I was thinking about a movie like Ben-Hur just now for some reason. I was like, I've never watched Ben-Hur because visually, as a kid, I was like, this is boring. And as an adult, I have never had the need to go back and watch it. So I can imagine that same thing happens now. The 40-year difference with the current generation to older things.
I guess it's probably different for me because I grew up in the 70s. So my parents got me into the old monster movies, vampire movies, Abbott and Costello, the old stuff, before color.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we also felt cool watching older stuff too. Like, because back when we were younger, like not everybody had access to everything. So like if you watched something your parents gave you and none of your friends knew about it or saw it, like you kind of felt cool. Like you're like, oh, there's this Abbott and Costello episode you never saw.
Yeah.
And you can't even find it because I have the VHS.
Right. Rambling Nerd says if they touch BTTF, there will be bodies made into compost.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what BTTF stands for.
Back to the Future.
Oh, Back to the Future. See? Oh my God. I'm not used to the small abbreviations. I liked my generation's all about longer.
Yeah.
And the newer generations, everything's condensed. So I have to get used to it. Let's see. I am there maybe 5 good films in the past 25
in my opinion.
years. Oh, in my opinion. See? See? You're the newer generation get it, and I'm sitting here just looking like a fool.
I would like to know if Josh has time to put in like what he would consider like 5 good films. I would probably argue there's more, but I think there's less films, being made. I think Sinners was an amazing film. As an example of a modern day.
And Reveling Nerd says that's a short list. What are they? And I guess he was referring to Josh. Same question you had. I'm in my late 30s, and my favorite films are 90s, 80s, 70s, and 60s. That's a broad range.
Yeah.
For a 30-something, yeah.
I mean, what I'll give him about that time period, or those 4 decades, is that a lot of things were original in terms of like the visuals, music, that kind of thing, but everything still follows. I forget. There's like a book out there. I don't even read, and yet I'm now referencing my second book on the stream. But there's a there's a book out there in filmmaking that's like the eight tropes to a movie, or the 8 storylines for a movie, and every movie follows at least one of the 8. I don't remember the exact number, but you think about like Star Wars, right? Star Wars, it tends to be given the title of like an original movie and groundbreaking, whatever, and it's literally a King Arthur movie with in space. So it's like even the details of things tend to almost be retellings of existing stories.
Yeah. Josh says I would put 2012 Dread in the top 5 of my past 2025 years.
He means 20 to 25 years. I think is what he's.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like that movie. I don't know if I'd say it's a great film.
It's okay,
but I'm willing to entertain this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not putting down his choice. It's okay.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
not my favorite. I would probably put. God, that's a really hard choice because there's a lot of good movies that I like. Um, I would say one that I felt was really good, but kind of failed was Crawl. Um, it was trying to be something like Star Wars,
Mhm.
but kind of like a swashbuckling kind of space fantasy movie, and I kind of think it missed the mark. It
Mm.
it was a good attempt. It was trying to get the people that love Star Wars into the same realm, but kind of a different idea, and um, it just missed the mark. This much.
Yeah.
Um, like, what would be your choice if you could put just one of your top five?
Like a film.
Yeah, film.
Um, I mean, I this will get laughed at. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, but Ninja Turtles. I think because film when people say film, they mean like serious acting. Usually they mean drama as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like the turtle movie was like perfect. I feel like that movie I can put it on no matter the mood,
Hmm.
and there's heart, drama, comedy, action, romance. It's got all of it.
Yeah.
So I TMNT 1990 is my number one.
Okay. No, I would not laugh at that. I mean, you're talking about the first turtle movie, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If you were going to say the second turtle movie with Vanilla Ice in it, I would
Right.
probably be
Yeah.
because it's like
There. Hey, there's people out there probably watching the chat right now, Aaron, that have part two over part one. But I found that with that example, a lot of people tend to go with the first one they saw
yeah, yeah.
versus yeah the actual real answer.
And it wasn't a bad movie. It was really enjoyable when it came out. I remember
Mm-hmm.
when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. The second one I didn't enjoy that much. I just felt like the writing kind of fell off on the second one.
Oh, they diluted it
Yeah,
1,000%. Yeah.
yeah. They could have gone in a way different direction. They could have gone in the comic book direction and made it a little bit more darker.
Well, it's a movie tale as old as time where the studio Iron the same goes for Iron Man, the Robert Downey Jr. first movie.
Mhm.
This is the same story for two different movies. The the studio gives the rights and the license owner gives the rights for the movie to be made.
Mhm.
Nobody's calling for this movie to be made, but people who believe in the source material are like, I'm going to make this movie. They go, fine, do it. They start filming the movie. They hire the actors. They do all the stuff. The movie's filming. They do test screenings to studio. Studio says it's trash. What are you doing? How can you do this? Movies come out. Studio's expected to bomb. Blows up in the first weekend. All of a sudden, the studio is like, "Hey, this movie's doing gangbusters.
Mhm.
You need to do a second one. Do it faster than you made the first one, and we're going to be involved in the entire writing process to change your script." Of which case, the original writing team, producers, all that stuff are like, "I'm out,"
Yeah.
and that's why you get crappy sequels.
Right. And Josh says the Matrix is just like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah,
So
even has White Rabbit.
yeah. Avatar is just the Matrix and Pocahontas.
I call it Fern Gully, which Fern Gully is also a ripoff of those.
He says, honestly, I like all three Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 90s films. I got them on VHS.
Nice.
Yes. I hear that a lot because we play Fortnite
Mm,
on Community Day on Jay's stream.
mhm,
So he tells me he has everything on VHS. So
mm.
good for him because it's a dying media.
Yep.
Third one is not great, but I still enjoy it. Okay. Awesome.
Unofficially, Turtles in Time.
Yeah. Okay. Now that we covered movies, I want
Mhm.
to talk. I want to talk games. You're a good
Mm.
game player, correct?
I've been out of the game for a while, no pun intended, but I used to play games a lot.
What's your console choice?
Right now, PS5.
PS5. Okay, mine
Mhm.
is Xbox Series X.
Hmm.
Always will be Xbox. It used to be Sony PlayStation when it first came out. It was good when there was a second Sony PlayStation. Then I went back to Nintendo, uh, Super NES, and that was pretty much it after that.
So we
No,
have reverse. Our stories are reversed.
okay.
Mhm.
So yours is just a little bit different. Yeah.
I was Xbox all the way, die hard until 360, when the Red Ring of Death was a thing, and I got it twice,
Oh my God.
and then I was
Yeah.
out. I'm out.
You were like, no more.
Hmm.
Done.
Hmm.
PlayStation.
Hmm.
Okay. The reason I bring up games is Nintendo Switch 2 came out recently,
Hmm.
blowing up like gangbusters.
Yep. Crazy.
People in the UK,
Hmm.
people here in the United States,
Hmm.
of course in Japan, really,
Hmm.
really big. Here's my question to you. Now that Nintendo put this Switch 2 out, they improved some things, the screen size, the magnetation of the Joy controllers.
Hmm.
You have a webcam now that you can use to play with others online. How do you feel about Nintendo telling people that they don't own the console? It's only leased out to them. Also, that they're not going to do any more physical media anymore, only digital or a code with the little plastic thing that has no software or hardware on it. How do you feel about that?
Sadly, it is no longer the future; it's the present. It's um, I feel like this started with Napster. I mean, once Napster came out, and we were all going digital, that was the end. That was the sign of the end times right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even as time went on, I became a digital over physical person. In a way, I still am. But um, I feel like in the last decade, one of the earliest companies I could think of that was doing something like that was Microsoft. When all of a sudden you couldn't buy Office anymore, you can only license it, and it works. It's one of those that, like, you get constant revenue stream. You
Mm-hmm.
cut costs because you don't have to physically make anything anymore. You don't have to ship it anymore. You don't have to deal with the big tariffs anymore, right? Because you don't have to import anything. It's all licensed and it's all
Okay.
streamed. So I think my biggest concern with it is something that more and more people are talking about now. But I had my first example with it back in the iTunes days, which is your version of whatever the media is will now only exist in whatever version it is that they have available.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you had Star Wars, right? That's probably the biggest example. If you had Star Wars, and then all of a sudden George Lucas makes the special edition, now
Mm-hmm.
your Star Wars is automatically converted in your
Mm-hmm.
digital library to the special edition. And then what if you don't like that special edition? They're like
Mm-hmm.
tough, So that's, to me, that will always be the argument.
Yeah.
But aside from that, everybody's doing it now. It's all about
Yeah.
constant revenue.
Yeah. But what my thing is, I want something that's tangible. I want something that I can have in my hand and say, I own this for life.
I mean, that's why, I do the toys now, right? Like that's my new physical, tangible thing. Where
Mm-hmm.
movies and whatnot, like, just like the kids now, right? Like if I want to watch Sinners right now, I can just go on my phone
Mm-hmm.
and boom.
Yeah.
Granted, I'd rather watch it on my TV and I'd rather watch it in the highest definition I could,
Yeah.
but I'm still going to choose convenience over that sadly, with most things. There will be movies that I'll still buy on physical because I'm like, oh, it's cool to have the steel box, right? To your
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
the physical experience of a steel book with all the extras in it is
Yeah.
part of the overall experience. But if I don't have that kind of emotional connection to a movie,
Yeah.
I'll just take the digital and save myself the time and effort.
Okay. But here's where I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Mhm.
Now, we know they have digital movies, we have digital games, but
Mhm.
what if they decide to one day say, okay, even though you bought that digital copy, even though it's on our servers,
Mhm.
we're going to take it away from you now.
Oh, 1000%.
It it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It's you go click your movie and it doesn't play.
Yep. I've already experienced that.
Yeah.
I bought again back in the iTunes days, actually towards the end of it. The rapper French Montana,
Mhm.
he released an album, Mac and Cheese like volume 4. And there was like 2 singles had dropped already. One was with Kodak Black, and the album launches, and then it turns out he didn't get all the samples cleared to release the album, and they actually took the album away even though you paid for it. So, and it's one of those that like now when you go into the iTunes library, you can't, I don't know if they fixed it since then, but in the last couple of years, like you couldn't search that album. And
Mhm.
technically the only 2 songs I have are the 2 sample songs that were cleared that were
Mhm.
on like MTV and stuff. But everything else that was once there is
Yeah.
not there anymore on my in my iTunes library or my Apple Music library.
And that's what I'm talking about. I feel like the corporate entities are saying, "Yeah, you paid for it, but it's not yours.
Yeah.
It's we own it,
Yeah.
and you are just a leaser."
Exactly.
And I feel like if you pay full price for something and they take it away from you, I think we should get a refund in some aspect. You know,
Mhm.
maybe not a full refund, but maybe a partial refund because you're taking away something that I wanted in my library. I wanted this
Yeah.
particular movie in my library. I want this particular music in my library. I want this particular game in my library. And now you're saying no.
Well, the thing is that the way that we are considering all this,
Yep.
the next generation doesn't even think about that. Like it
True.
again, I I'm actually forever grateful that I had the previous job because I got to run a lot of these things by, 18-year-olds and
Mhm.
21-year-olds, 25-year-olds,
Mhm.
where I'm like, hey, what do you think about blank?
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, it was a non-starter. And for them, they're like they went to go see Minions in a movie and they had a blast seeing Minions with their friends and getting
Yeah.
drunk to go watch Minions and stuff.
Mhm.
None of them have any desire to ever buy that movie. Like if they never saw it again after seeing it in the theater that one time, like
Mhm.
if it disappeared from streaming, they'd
Yeah.
be like, all right, well, there's another movie I can watch. They don't have those, maybe I think for them they'd have to lose out like on a whole studio. They'd have to lose all of Pixar to be like,
Okay.
whoa, what the F versus Toy Story 3 is not available anymore, but yet the other
Right.
ones are. That type of thing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So the newer generation you feel like is like they're okay with they're not attached to that movie and they've seen it already. That's enough.
Because we understand the value. Well, we grew up
Yeah.
understanding the value of a physical attachment to something. Like,
Yeah.
like if I wanted to play GoldenEye,
Mm-hmm.
I had to either have the physical or my friend had the physical. And if you were the friend in the neighborhood that had the physical and nobody else had it, you know the value of that. Like you remember that feeling of I have the only copy.
Yeah.
And nowadays kids don't have that. They've never dealt with you have the only copy of blank.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a limited edition pair of sneakers, but and even that's not that popular anymore, but
Yeah.
that kind of idea.
Okay, we'll get to a little bit of chat here because I don't want to get far behind.
Yeah.
Josh Pepper says digital is convenience, but I still rather have tangible.
Hmm.
Also, he says we need to name this show Devil's Avocados. Did I say avocados or did I say advocate?
I think you said advocate, but I think I do like the idea of devil's avocados.
Okay. I'll take it into consideration. Cannot sell digital copies if you don't want the item anymore. And that's from UGamer,
Hmm.
another person I hang around with and game. Josh Peppers. Thus, why things like Netflix is sort of lame. Here's a movie for 3 months. Now it's gone for 3 years. It might be back for another 3 months.
Hmm.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hmm.
Yes. And welcome, Stevo. What's up, all? Appreciate it. One more question from Josh Peppers. That was because the newer stuff doesn't have much rewatch value.
That's valid.
It's very valid. But the reason I wanted to bring up games is because I just feel like Nintendo is now trying to screw the consumer.
Yeah.
And they even said if you mod it, we're going to brick it and you won't be able to use it, period.
Hmm.
Now, I've seen online some people actually modded and Nintendo has not bricked their console. So is this like they're trying to scare us, or are they
Yeah.
really going to brick the console? Yeah.
It's they're all just it's the greed is off the charts, but it's like one of those things where unless we speak with our money, they're not going to stop. And like if you're Nintendo, why would you not at this point keep doing these threats and pushing the envelope? People still go crazy for your drops. And mind you, they keep dropping the same thing over and over again. Like,
Oh yeah.
like the Switch, whatever version just came out. It's just people can keep playing Mario Kart and Mario Party, the same games that have been out for 20 years. So if you're them, I mean, if I'm playing Hollywood Archer, like, Mr. Greedy, I'm going to keep pushing the envelope and keep raising the prices because they keep buying it. But it doesn't mean that it's a good idea.
And it blew my mind because I thought because they said that they would brick anybody that modded any Nintendo game or any thing on their console, that people would have this big backlash. Because I saw a lot of comments that people were like, "I'm not buying Nintendo Switch when it comes out too, just not going to do it." So I thought there's no way there's going to be a lot of sales. But then I saw when it came out, boom, 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 big lines at Best Buy. There was big lines at GameStop. In the UK, big surge there. They were just gobbling up. They're like, Nintendo, give it. Here's my money. I don't care if it's $650. Here you go. I'm going to sell my soul so I can have this.
Yeah. For what? It's. But that goes back to our question, right? The tangible thing. It's got to be something like that, to that scale.
Yeah.
To a PS5 scale. Not individual games.
And then I just saw Xbox do a stream about they're having this new Xbox handheld console, they call it. And I really don't call it a console. I call it a Stream Deck. And that's what it is, basically. It's not a physical media, and people were arguing with me online about it. I said it's not physical media inserting into a handheld. It is all digital. There is no SD card. Well, there is SD card to store the digital games that you're going to have, or it's how was it? It's linked to your Xbox app. So it's not a handheld game console. It is a Stream Deck, just like any other Stream Deck.
Yeah.
That can play better, has a better processor, and a well-known company, I think ROX or something like that. How do you feel about that? I mean, Xbox is trying to now do this whole handheld thing.
I mean, it's logical. It's a logical decision and path to go down. Doesn't mean it's going to be a good product. Doesn't mean it's the better superior option, but essentially technology is getting better, right? Where
Yep.
looking at something on a small screen is easier, but you also see a space to fill. Like you see the iPad generation where parents are just giving their kids iPads. What if I was able to give them an Xbox instead of an iPad? Or a Nintendo, another Nintendo versus the iPad. Like we're fighting for market share here. So again, from the perspective of corporate greedy person, yeah, but at the same time, I feel like it diminishes the value of an Xbox because having the console on your TV and that whole experience is part of the thing.
Yeah. And here's what Josh says: the new Xbox handheld very well could make Switch 2 obsolete. But
I don't agree because the people
No.
keep wanting to get Mario Kart. It makes no sense to me, but they love it.
Nintendo's never going to go out of business.
No.
Never.
No.
And Josh says ROG, Republic of Gamers.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
Oh.
I'm not a gamer.
Yeah. He knows it too.
Yeah. Whoever's gamer, Asa ROG is a partnership with Xbox. So they
Asus, the company. Okay.
Yeah.
So they make their own handheld. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's just another way a company can make money off another company.
Yeah.
Asa's not bad. They make great motherboards. They make great video cards. So yeah, it's going to be a good stream handheld game. Yeah, I agree. But it says what else? What does Josh Pepper says? He's just a lot of information tonight. But people will mod those Xbox handhelds to be able to play anything. Well, anybody's going to mod anything, and I've seen it so many times. I've seen GoldenEye modded. I've seen Doom, yes, modded. Everybody's going to mod something. You can't stop it. It's out there. I don't know how any company is going to stop it. That's just what the newer generation is trying to do. They're trying to say, look, if I don't have to pay for it, I'm not going to. And
it's our fault, right? We all started it with the Napsters and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I tell this story to everybody, especially the youth. I'm like, there's a little system out there that could have dethroned PlayStation, and that was Dreamcast.
Oh yeah.
The biggest mistake I think Dreamcast made was it was the easiest system to bootleg. I could literally put a Dreamcast disc in my CD burner and copy it and give it to my friend. Like it was that simple. And they were the first ones to do online that was easy to communicate with other people on. So like I remember people were playing Phantasy Star Online and something else, and they were able to use like a keyboard or whatnot. But Dreamcast, when they did their online with the keyboard, it was also like super easy I felt like the UI was better, but we were all sharing the same Dreamcast username and password. And if they locked it down, I went into an AOL chat room and just got a new one. And we all were not paying for it. We were all just sharing the same username and password. So it was so easy to bootleg that system that it was a downfall of that system. But everybody learned off that for sure.
Yeah. And I appreciate everybody in the chat that are making comments. This has been really, really entertaining and informative. I've learned so much just with the stream alone with the newer generation, and it's great. I want to go into another subject, and maybe it's not on your top of your list, but it's top of my list, and that's why Comic Book Spotlight is what it is today. Comic books.
Yeah.
Now, we did put a poll on there, and it says, do you like comic books that are physical copies over digital copies? Now, the yes is 57%, no 28%, and maybe 14%. So it's kind of, it's not conclusive yet that, people do like digital. People do maybe not like digital. Maybe they like the physical comic book in their hands because they want to, like I said, intangible.
I was one of the 14%. I did maybe.
Maybe.
I so yeah, comic books in physical form, not in my top 5 like hobbies of all time. I did have a phase of collecting comic books. I had a bigger phase of collecting trades. I had a good trade collection going at one point.
Yeah.
Um, and I love a good paperback trade or hardcover trade actually.
Yeah.
So that's why I put maybe, because to me that's still to me the better experience.
Yeah.
But you know, as a content creator, that's where I struggle, because for me, and actually this is more of Anthony's thing, because Anthony's the comic reader in our group. You
Yeah.
know, being able to download a digital and then screenshot stuff to be able to talk about it in YouTube form
Hmm.
is so easy. It's so simple. And I think Anthony still has a pull list too. So it's not like he doesn't buy physical.
Yeah.
But it's just digital has made things a lot easier for us to read on the fly, make
Yeah.
content, that kind of thing. But I will still say a physical thing is a superior experience.
Oh yeah. And I have digital comic books as well. I mean, don't get me wrong; they're less expensive. You know, go to Amazon. I can have a subscriber to comic books, and it might cost me like maybe a $2
Mm-hmm.
max for a
Mm-hmm.
digital copy. Where if I went into a comic book shop, you're paying for a physical between $5 to $6,
Yep.
depending on the publisher. If it's Marvel, it's probably going to be less. If it's
Mm-hmm.
Image, it's probably going to be a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an indie, you're definitely going to spend $10 to $12 on a comic book easily.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and
Oh, there you go.
what's it? Rambling Nerd. What does it say? It says reading one now.
See?
Sadly, he said. He goes, one more thing. I grabbed the odd trade paperback, Last Ronin Notable. Huh?
Do you know the last Ronin story? The
Oh, yeah, I
turtle
do. Yeah. And everybody goes, oh, did I spoil it for you? It's like, no, because I've already read it a long time ago. So,
Yeah.
it's like, I know what it's about. And it's a really cool comic book. And I think it's very enjoyable.
I think that and they may do this already, but I feel like what comics serve for, or the service that comics provide now is let's test out a storyline, let's test out a character,
Hmm.
see how it develops, and then
Yeah.
if it's good enough, we'll transfer it to cartoon, movie, you know, whatever it may be. But ultimately, I've said it before. I'm not proud of it, but it's a dying media. Like it's
Yeah.
the youth. When you go into a comic book store now,
Yeah.
unless you're in the Pokemon section, if they have that,
Yeah.
the average age of the person that's standing in front of the rack of comic books is older and older,
Yes.
and that's the problem.
Yeah. I would love to see comic books make a surge. I even try to get my son into comic books, and he's more of a anime fan.
Yep.
And I was like, why? I was like,
so it looks like I'm looking at you.
yeah, no problem. And he's like, I just think it's more interesting than comic books. And I said, is it because you don't want to read or you're not challenged enough? Because I felt like, well, my mom forced me to go to a library, and she says you can pick out any book you want in the library, but you have to read it. So I pick out maybe one or two books, and really, really small stories that I could read, and she would look at me and she goes, "Well, why did you pick those particular books?" I said, well, because I really don't like to read. At the time, when I was very young, I didn't like to read. I was embarrassed because some of the words I could not enunciate well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was embarrassing for me. And she goes, no. I want you to go back and I want you to pick out a book that I think you could read. And she picked out the hardest book for my age level to read.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me better at enunciating. It got me better at learning about the story
Hmm.
instead of having these small little stories like Dr. Seuss books,
Hmm. Hmm.
one fish, two fish, three fish, that's pretty easy.
Hmm.
She wanted me to use my imagination, and I feel like today's generation, they're not using their imagination anymore. They're not. They're just accepting what the media gives them. Here you go,
Yeah,
force feeding everybody. There you go.
I have a vendetta out against Muppet Babies, because Muppet Babies, you know, make your dreams come true. Like imagination is everything.
Mhm.
Like I like legit took that to heart because I was an only child, so like I just all I had was my imagination and whatever figures and stuff I had.
Yeah.
Um, but you're right. I mean, it nowadays it's all about how many things can I do at one time to maximize my time.
Yeah.
And my wife and I will sit there, we're watching TV shows. Nowadays we just watch reality TV shows, but we're
Mhm.
watching TV shows, but like we're both doing something else at the same time. I'm editing a
Yeah.
video, I'm on social media, she's painting something or on social media. Like
Mm.
to sit I am it's crazy because she loves to read. I hate to read because I'm just
Mhm.
like, if I'm there, I can't do something else. My brain's like, what else can I do at the same time?
Yeah.
Um, you said he likes anime. Did you mean like was he also reading manga or just
Yes,
watching anime?
he was reading manga as well too,
Okay.
because I was upset when his mom told me what he was reading was like a vampire
Mm.
comic book thing, and I was like, I don't think he should be reading that. But she was like, well, he likes it, so he's reading something. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess.
Yeah. So anime mangas. Have you ever been into anime? Did I ever ask you that?
I have, like Ghost in the Shell.
Yep.
I'm not into a lot of the other newer stuff. Like,
Same.
I'm trying to think, what's the most popular one?
Well, Naruto has been
Yes,
massive. One Piece is probably the bigger one, I think now.
yeah,
Um,
Morinoto. No, not into it. His
yeah,
My son's mother was a big, big Naruto fan, and
Naruto. Yep.
I was just like, no, I'm not gonna sit there and watch it. And she goes, why not? And she finally made me sit down and watch it. I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
You don't want to sit there and watch 5,000 episodes of one show.
No, no. And she was of that generation where Harry Potter and you know I, she wasn't a big reader herself, but she loved anime, and she got my son into it big time, and I was just like, come on.
You know what it is with anime? It tends to, depending on which one you read, but
Mhm.
um, I'm forgetting the genre. There's the genre of like the young boy like learning that he's like a chosen one, and King Arthur style
Mhm.
format.
Yeah.
Shonen, the shonen style of comic book or manga.
Mhm.
What's interesting with those is that even though they're geared towards kids, they do tend to be a little bit more mature than your average, you know, cartoon that's aimed at a kid the same age. And
Yeah.
I know when I was growing up, that's what got me into it more was, you're dealing with life and death situations, in even the most basic thing like Pokemon,
Mhm.
and you feel cooler reading something like that versus like a mindless episode of Teen Titans Go, like
Mhm.
it, it it just pushes an envelope. And I think that's why a lot of today's kids, especially, have gotten into manga, which I love in one aspect because I was made fun of for liking that stuff as a kid. But um, they seek, and maybe that goes back to why Stranger Things is so popular.
Mhm.
It's for them, but it's
Yeah.
way more mature than we would have got at the same age.
Right.
So I think that's part of the reason.
I support it, but I don't want to be forced to have to watch it or
Yeah.
forced to read a manga, a comic book. I just think it's another great form out there. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I'm of the older generation, so it's like I'm Generation X. It's just like we were, my dad before me, he was a military brat that moved around a lot, and I was when I came along. I think my dad wanted more of a stable home environment than he had when he was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said it was hard for him to make friends because he was always moving because of my grandfather being a Navy cook and a soldier, moving around all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he couldn't make friends that easily, So I could see his reasoning. He wanted me to have a more stable environment,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he had stronger values too. As a father, he wanted me to be more than just go out there and have a simple job.
Yeah.
You want to have more, education and more value. And I think my mom was the same way, but she liked teaching me to use my imagination, to play with my toys, and don't care what people are saying behind my back. Oh well,
Mm-hmm.
Chris is talking to himself. Well, yeah, I'm talking to myself, but I'm also creating a world that nobody
Mm-hmm.
understands. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what's great about creators is because you could take something. Let's give an example. Minecraft,
Mm-hmm.
simple to developer, right? Created something that was so simple and easy to do. Build this little world, have these creatures, and you're building, you're making buildings, you're chopping down wood, you're getting resources.
Mm-hmm.
That was something different, and it appealed to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it appeared, and later on, it helped adults wanting to get into it. They're like, "Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that looks cool."
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. We need to go back to having people create ideas and come out with a new kind of experience, so this new generation can understand. Look, it's not just about what you do on TikTok. It's not matter what you do on your iPhone. It doesn't matter what you do on your computer. You having interaction with people like where we are right now, where you can see you and you can chat with them. That's that's okay and that's great, but you're not going outside. You're not playing. You're not moving around. You're not sharing the same experience. The only experience you're having is online.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we got to get the children away from that. We need to reduce the time that they have on the internet and say, go out and play, go out and create, go out and build forts, do something that's different.
Yeah.
But we need to create. And when we stop creating, that's when the generation just become mindless robots.
1,000%. 1,000%. That's why the arts is so important.
Yeah. And they took away, when I was in high school, they took away automotive,
Mm-hmm.
woodworking,
Mm-hmm.
music,
Mm-hmm.
choir,
Mm-hmm.
drama club. What do you have left?
Yeah. You have all the classes needed for you to become a cog in the machine.
Yeah. I mean, okay, if you were to pick one anime, one manga comic book as your top choice, what would it be?
Oh, easy answer. So it comes with an asterisk. I feel like what I was going to tell you to actually watch as well, if you want to get
Okay.
into something, just to give it a try. So Dragon Ball Z will never be on my list because I feel like it's the top of the mountain. Dragon Ball Z is what all anime aspire to be. So
Yeah.
for that reason, I never count it as a favorite because by default, I feel like it should be everybody's favorite. I
Yeah.
do understand age bracket affects that decision.
Yeah.
But for you, I highly suggest Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay.
I preach on top of the mountains about this anime. It's one of the greatest anime of all time. It I'll give you the synopsis because I feel like it helps to sell it sometimes.
Okay.
It takes place on essentially an Earth, right, where um, unlike our Earth, as time went on, we developed more of a usage of magic than science. Magic was more popular,
Okay.
and alchemy became a thing, and using alchemy in society became a thing. So what happens in this comic is um, these two brothers, they live with their mom. The dad has abandoned them,
hmm
and the mother essentially dies of what we could assume is cancer. They just don't say it.
Okay.
And they're young, but they're like savants. Like the two of them, they study alchemy like nobody's business. And they decide that they're gonna do the forbidden art of resurrection. And in
Ooh.
doing so, they fail. And in alchemy, there's a rule of equivalent trade. So what I give you, I must receive in return. Because they did alchemy to do resurrection,
Mhm.
the other side says, I now need to take. And
Yeah.
it takes the entire body of one of the brothers. And as it's consuming the other brother's body, he's able to do an alchemy circle and seal his one brother's body into a suit of armor and stop his body from being taken away. So he's left with just one arm and one
Mhm.
leg,
Okay.
and a body of armor that it now holds the soul of his brother.
Gotcha.
And he's like, my goal is at the age of like 8. He's like, my goal is to get your body back. I'm not even at this point going to try to bring my mother back. I just need to get you your body back. And they become so good at alchemy, they join the military, and the military is also an army of like alchemists. It is absolutely amazing writing. You learn that their father was also, a savant of alchemy, and
Okay.
that there's one of the titles of a show that always stuck in my head
Yeah.
was an episode of Spider-Man the animated series that was called Sins of the Father.
Yes.
And Full Metal Alchemist is very much a story of the sins of the father affecting the kids, even though he wasn't even in their lives.
Wow.
It is top tier anime by
Okay.
far.
Okay. And I will definitely look into it. And
Mhm.
Josh says that Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess because he's more 30s, you
Yeah,
know,
he seems like he's in my age bracket.
yeah, that
Mhm.
he would, you and him would have a more of a connection. Where I would come and you would be like, okay, well, I like some of the things you like, but
Yeah.
this is my cup of tea over here. So
Yeah.
I think you would probably have more in common than you would with me if we were, face to face.
You're so I'm going to assume your age bracket. You would, if you got into anime when we got into anime, as far as like how
Mhm.
old you were at the time, you would
Yeah.
probably more of a Voltron fan or a Battle of the Planets, Speed Racer. And you mentioned Ghost in the Shell. So that
Yes.
makes sense. Versus for us, I'm 1 year ahead of Josh. He says he's gonna be 39 next year. Or actually,
Yeah.
I'm 2 years ahead of him.
Okay.
I'm a Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Pokemon. That's my generation.
Yeah. And they're all good stuff because, I don't want to put down other people generations of good, interesting, creative
Mhm.
media. Because if I was to put down your guys' stuff, you guys could do the same thing back to me. Well, you're an old timer. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
that. And I feel like we don't need to derail people. We need to advocate. Okay, you like this. Why you like this? Understand why they like this, and has to be an understanding between generations. You like this for a reason. We like this for a reason. And you're right. I grew up with Voltron, a Speed Racer, Woody Woodpecker, Tom and Jerry,
Hmm.
GI Joe,
Hmm.
Transformers, GoBots.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, see, what's interesting is your generation
Hmm.
was the last of the good guy has to win every time.
Yes.
Where mine, we started with the season finales where the bad guy won, or
Yeah.
a hero died, like in between both of us is Transformers, a movie where Optimus dies in the beginning, and it's like what, like,
Yeah.
so that it's funny that how even though we're close in age, it's like two different experiences with anime and cartoons.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Josh said, "Oh, he's going crazy today." I watched Dragon Ball in the '80s and the early '90s, and Dragon Ball Z late '90s and early 2000s.
Shout out
That's
to
all right.
Toonami. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Toonami, I wish it was still around. That was a pretty good idea. Um, of course, we had Cartoon Network.
Mm-hmm.
That was groundbreaking back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, Toonami was great because it was at late at night. And then you had Adult Swim,
Mm-hmm.
which was even better. And it gave us different creators. And I think we started getting more into wacky stuff and more adult
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
It was no Simpsons. It was better than Simpsons. It was, we're going to hit you right in the face with this,
Mhm.
and it's going to be raunchy comedy with great flair to it, and you're going to enjoy it. It's like
Mhm.
a big brother coming in and making fun of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I can explain it, and there's nothing wrong with it. Let's see. Josh says my favorite cartoon is Mighty Max, though. Mighty Max.
So it's funny he mentions that I have a list of movies that
Mhm.
if I was given the keys of the castle,
Yeah.
and they were like, you can make one movie,
Mhm.
we'll give you X budget, make it happen. Mighty Max is on my list of movies I would make.
Okay.
It's on my remake list as well. That it should get a remake.
Yeah.
Do you know the story of Mighty Max?
A little bit. I know it was a little handheld adventure pocket thing like Polly
Boys
Pocket.
version of Polly Pocket. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know the history of Mighty Max. Maybe you can give me a brief synopsis.
Yeah, super quick because I don't even remember all the details of it. But kid comes across this hat again, King Arthur type story. Comes across this hat. He's the chosen one, and the hat opens up portals to other dimensions. And he has Virgil, and I can't remember the other character. There's like a small owl, and then a giant like Conan type character that are his like guardians, help him get from dimension to dimension.
Yeah. And that's all good. I think what I like about your program again is that you don't care what they're saying in the chat because you want them to express themselves in their own way. And I think in your chat on your channel, there is a very big range of people and ages and generation. And what's cool is that we can all come together. We can agree and disagree about things, but we never put anybody down. We don't say you're wrong. You try to give a brief idea of like, okay, maybe this doesn't work now, but it worked back then.
Mm-hmm.
How do we bridge the two together to understand this was this, that was that?
Mm-hmm.
This is the now. This was the past. How can those two meet in the middle somewhere and agree to disagree?
I think there needs to be more bridging of the past and the present because to the comic book point earlier, the only way these franchises continue are if the youth get into it. And I feel like with movies that I'm harsh on, that I'm fans of the franchises of like Ghostbusters, I
Yeah.
get frustrated because I'm like, you're putting out content that is doing nothing to bring in
Mhm.
a younger demographic, which is what you need.
Okay, what else does Josh say? There was talks of IRL movie years ago.
In real life
Oh, real life.
for Mighty Max.
Oh, Mighty Max. Okay. And if they do a cartoon or anime movie or show or remake, they must bring back Rob Paulsen to voice Max.
Yeah. Iconic voice actor.
Okay. Well, I'm sure he's getting older too, right?
Yeah.
And just like anything from my generation, most of those voice actors are long gone. And it's a shame that, even Larry Hama getting older, great comic book writer,
Mm-hmm.
created G.I. Joe, started from Marvel. And every time I hear about him going to a Comic Con and appearing, it's less and less because he says it's too hard for him on his body. And he just doesn't want to do it anymore. Not that he doesn't love the fans, he's just getting older.
It's hard. It's hard being on like that for days at a time. You know, it's I saw it this weekend. Oh, sorry, with celebrities at Ghostbusters Day. I lost focus.
Yeah. It's
Where
okay.
they sitting there talking to people for 3, 4, 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. And he said, Cutthroat, Rob Paulsen voiced G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay.
Yep. Animaniacs, all the Warner Brothers stuff.
Oh, that's good. Good. So much of the 80s and 90s is Rob Paulsen. Gotcha.
I had a question for you. I didn't get a chance to ask you.
Sure.
How'd you come up with Cutthroat Comics?
Okay. I came up with Cutthroat Comics. So I was sitting there. I wanted to put out my comic book. And I'm like, I got to have a studio kind of name or production. And I said, well, the comic book business, they keep on saying, is a cutthroat business.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I can't say cutthroat business. So I'm going to say Cutthroat Comics because the business is cutthroat.
Yep.
Very hard to get into. Very hard to be as big as Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Alex Sanchez, who I had on Comic Book Spotlight, who actually did the concept art for my comic book, which I'm still trying to get made and done. I'm finishing up issue 5. It's called Beautiful People. It's like a horror / whodunit comic book, kind of with a not Charmed, but more like a Ghost Whisperer kind of feel to it. Basically, it's David Drake, who takes over his dad's family business as a mortician, and crimes start happening in the city he lives in, which is San Diego, which is my hometown. So I put a little bit of myself into it. And when he was really young, he basically could see ghosts and talk to them. Well, now all these killings and serial killings that are going on in the city, it's bringing back his thing that he kind of suppressed when he was turned 18. He suppressed it. He didn't see ghosts anymore. He was just trying to I'm done with it. I'm sick of them talking to me. Well, all these killings are happening. Now they're coming and talking to him again. And he's not understanding it. And the victims that are killed by the serial killer are telling him, we need to be avenged. We need to bring this guy to justice, and you're the only person that we can talk to. And it's kind of funny because he's in the mortuary business, right? And he's dealing with dead bodies all the time. But why all of a sudden is it coming back to him again now after he had suppressed it for so many years?
Hmm.
And it's going to be a 5 comic books issue. And it was supposed to be 3, but I said, well, there's so much more to tell. I can't do it in 3. It has to be 5.
Hmm.
And I was talking to Alex Sanchez. He goes, yeah, 5's probably just good number for a new up and coming writer like yourself that a company is going to take seriously, you know.
Mm.
And he looked at it. He says it's a really good story, and he did the concept art for it. He did David Drake, Gwen, and Amy. Now Gwen is grew up with him, so she knows David Drake like the back of her hand, and now she helps him with his business at the mortuary. And Amy is basically a forensic, person that when the bodies come in, and she's there to tell the people the cause of death, and she gets involved as well because they have this kind of chemistry in the very first comic where they're kind of like bickering at each other like brother and sister. So
Hmm.
I don't know if I want to make it into a love interest thing, but they have that kind of connection. And
Mm.
she's going to help him in the comic book a little bit, but that's kind of premise of my comic book.
Nice.
It's different. I think horror is coming back in comic books.
Mhm.
Doug Wagner, who I also had in Comic Book Spotlight like 3 times, he's done a thing called Plastic, and he just did a new one called I Am a High School Serial Killer. No, Fashion High School Serial Killer,
Mm.
where she goes to a fashion school and basically is sewing people's skins after murdering them and making fashion out of them. And people are like, "Oh, that's the greatest fashion in the world. What material are you using?" And she would tell them, "Oh, I'm using skin or leather or, And they're like, "Oh, that has to be cowhide." And she goes, "No, that's actual skin." So I think in the end, she's going to get caught up in her own little world.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think it was interesting, and I told him, I was like, "You're going more dark because before Doug Wagner did stuff like Batman, um, I think he did some Marvel stuff as well. I forget, I don't remember everything he told me, but I remember him talking about doing Batman, and
Mm.
he's going in this darker direction." Because he says, "You know what, Chris? It's more interesting, and I can get inside the killer's mind and make people want to read it more."
Yeah.
But I think all these mediums are great. But the question I have for you, when you on your channel go into the movies and you tell what you like about it and what you don't like about it, but then you go into the logistics of how much a studio puts into making that movie and how much they get back in return
Mhm.
when that movie finally comes out,
Mhm.
which I found was interesting. It was a different look at movies.
Mhm.
And what made you come up with that kind of formula?
Yeah, I've always had a fascination with like just business in general.
Hmm.
I I used to be decent at sales, but I hate doing sales, but I like the methods behind it, and I like the concepts of it, and it's one of the reasons why I like Toys That Made Us, for example, is they go into how marketing and the creators and all that stuff were able to pull together to get whatever license and property off the ground. So I've always had a fascination with the money side and the sales side of things. So when it
Hmm.
comes to the movies, I it was kind of a twofold thing. It was my fascination with how much money can they make on a movie, and what does it cost to make a movie and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also it was my reaction to go woke, go broke. It was, coming off of Last Jedi, I embrace that hatred that was towards that movie and the hatred that people had towards Hollywood of like everything is woke, everything is blah blah blah. And all these creators kept saying, Disney's scared, Disney's losing money, or this company's losing money or doing whatever. And I believed a lot of it. But I was like, it's weird. Like these companies are going woke and going broke. But then as I started getting into the stock market, for example, I was like, their reports are showing that they're doing well. So what's really happening here? And that's where I was like, oh, okay. If I'm going to talk to something, I need to understand, is it even making money? I can't be one of these creators that will shoot from the hip and make a wild comment or claim or prediction if I don't have any facts to back it up. And I feel like the easiest thing to pull as far as facts is what was the box office. So people come out and say the Venom franchise is terrible. Sony should give up the Spider-Man license. And I'm like, all right, well, sure. On paper, if you read a review, it's a terrible movie. All three of them made money.
Yeah.
So it's like that helps me in not just the review portion, but in predicting, where things will go.
Yeah. Josh says, thus similar to an old black and white film where the artists, sculptors were the ones he killed in plaster.
He's talking about the storyline about the girl in fashion school.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe he read it.
No, he wrote it out as you were talking.
Oh, okay. Because I had the first issue of Doug's. Very, very good. Or even Texas Chainsaw, where the skin was used for a chair or a lampshade. Yes. Got it. Okay, let's go into one more subject.
Yeah.
Probably your best subject. Action figures.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to put it out there. Todd McFarlane lost the license to DC. Action figures. Do you think this is going to break him? Or do you think he's just going to reinvent himself?
I believe neither. I believe that Todd has created a lane for himself where if I'm a company that needs to make toys and everybody's putting their bids in, I know that he won't be the cheapest toy. He won't be the most expensive toy. But at least if his name's on it, people will pay attention to it.
Okay.
And for that reason, I feel like even though he lost the DC license now, it doesn't mean it's gone forever.
Right.
He was killing. He's gotten better at the DC license since losing it, which is crazy. But I think that Todd is somebody I love and hate at the same time. Anytime Todd talks, I'm like, I root for you. Everybody roots for you every time he opens his mouth. But then when I see some of the figures and the quality of some of the figures and the choices that are made, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
So I have a love-hate with Todd, but I will always respect him, especially when you hear his stories about how he got spawned off the ground and all that.
Yeah.
But no, the DC license thing, I think that even though he may lose it, he signs like 5 other licenses that same year.
Yeah.
So he'll be fine.
Right. And it's funny because there is a creator that used to work for Hasbro that told me a story about him meeting Todd McFarlane and how excited he was because he wanted to be a comic book artist. And Todd McFarlane at the time was just starting out into figures with the Spawn stuff.
Yep.
And he remembers going up to Todd McFarlane, and Todd McFarlane's like, hey, kid. Yeah. You like me. Go away. he was so distraught by that he said, "I don't hate Todd McFarlane, but I will never, never." I felt like he could have helped me as a young kid,
Yeah.
and shouldn't have turned my back on me. But I'm sure when Todd did that, and I'm not trying to justify what Todd did.
Right.
He was in that stage where I'm untouchable.
Yeah.
I'm Todd McFarlane.
Yeah.
I don't need you, kid. You need
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And that person was no other than Bobby Valla,
I knew you were gonna say it was Bob. I knew it.
who now is one of the bigger sellers of action figures in 6 inch.
Mhm.
Now, when he was in Hasbro, he told everybody on 3POA, which him and Ryan and Tony used to be all a part of. And because Tony is splitting off and Bobby is getting so big in the figure world that he said that he started telling Hasbro they should do a 6 inch line of G.I. Joe.
Mhm.
But at that time, it wasn't called classified.
Right.
And he started on sculpting those figures, those 5 figures, the first wave.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, Hasbro was like, "Well, we don't need you anymore. You're fired.
Mhm.
We're going to let you go, but we're going to give you a servants package
Mhm.
and everything." Bobby Valla was so ticked off. He wanted to prove to Hasbro, you can't, you can get rid of me, but I'm going to be the biggest success in the toy industry
Yeah.
for figures.
Yeah.
And 6 inch, and it's going to be a military line.
Yeah.
And he's the one, when Hasbro dropped the Steel Brigade property and not want to reunion it, what did he do? He picked it up.
Mhm.
Hasbro, what are you doing? Steel Brigade is one of your best sellers besides Snake Eyes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then he goes on to be so successful. That's what I'm talking about. Don't put down the younger generation, because maybe one day you're going to be looking behind your rearview mirror and going, "Oh crap, that's Bobby Valla. Well,
Yeah.
we let go from Hasbro, who could have made great figures if they continued to employ him." But he said, "I'm not bitter at Hasbro. I'm glad they let me go, because it made me know that I got to do something on my own and not be Hasbro's little handyman."
Mhm. Mhm.
So I give it to Bobby Valla. I mean, I'm a big collector of his Valaverse Action Force.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
I am so a couple of things. I'm a Bobby Valla fan.
Yeah,
Although I don't collect Valaverse.
right.
Because of everything I mentioned before, I love his Saturday morning videos, because he always talks about like the business of stuff.
Yeah.
I eat that stuff up. Um, I took one of his videos, actually. I made a little short about it on my
Mhm.
Instagram, and it's still performing very well, because I feel like he's just telling it like it is.
Yeah.
Now, uh, one of the issues that you have when it comes to being I'm going to say being a authority in anything, right? And by authority, I don't mean like the biggest person, but like
Yeah.
somebody that people listen to.
Right.
When you become an authority in something, everybody starts coming out and coming to you and telling you, "Hey, you inspire me. Hey, I want to be like you. Hey, tell me the tips and tricks. Hey, tell me blah blah blah." And I imagine that at a certain point, you kind of turn into, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, kid. Yeah, 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 kid," because he said that to Bobby, and Bobby's one success. But Todd probably had 5 million people come across his path that were like, hey, Todd, I want to work for you. I want to be blank. I can do X, Y, and Z. So those are the moments where I'm like, all right, it's an a-hole move to do. And I feel like as a celebrity, whether you want to acknowledge your celebrity or not, you have to have a certain level of grace with anybody who says, hey, you inspire me. You just have to. But I can see where somebody like Todd comes from at times. Now, on the flip side of that coin too, or I don't think it's the right analogy, but going to Bobby Vala, I've also heard ill story of Bobby Vala when it comes to people going to him and whatnot. So, in a way, he's become the very thing he hates. But I think that sometimes that's a natural progression, because eventually, as you work your way up and you get into that position, you now deal with the same issues that the previous person dealt with. And, Todd, I feel like Todd is a-hole. I feel like Todd has to be an a-hole. I feel like that's part of his character. It's up to us to get to his position and try to not be an a-hole.
Yeah. I think you hit it on great spot on Bobby Vala. I've heard other stories about Bobby Vala, especially at some Comic Cons, at some shows where he's selling his figures, and sometimes I get where he's coming from, and sometimes I'm just like, look, you don't want to be what you said you never want to be when it came to Todd McFarlane not giving you the time of day. I think people, when they see these people in real life, I think some people don't know how to approach those people, or they're too starstruck, and they're just like, because I remember when I went to a Padre baseball game and Tony Gwynn came up to me and he signed my autograph baseball, and I didn't even ask him to sign it. And later on, a young catcher named Benito Santiago lived close by my house when he was a rookie. So he lives across the street from me, and I played with his nephew, and I got to meet Benito Santiago. And then one day he had a party over there, and I asked Tony Gwynn, because he saw me, and he goes, I remember you. I go, why did you sign my baseball and not the people that were going, here, can you sign it? He goes, because you weren't like everybody else. I felt like you didn't want a piece of me, you weren't like the other people were. I was gonna sign the baseball or the glove or the t-shirt, and they were gonna go and sell it.
Yeah.
When I signed it to you, I knew you were gonna cherish it and respect it.
Yeah.
So I like
people also get too casual. They get too casual and they feel like they know the person.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that that celebrity doesn't know you the way that you know them. I'll give you one quick real life example of how you can become cold to people. So my previous job was I used to work for Peloton, and I was there for 8 years. I was there when they were not a publicly traded company, when they became public, when they blew up, and on the way down. The whole ride, I was there. If I ever get into writing books, I'd love to write a book about that experience. But I tell you, there were times where I became such a cold person because every day some person was walking in the store telling me how the business was doing, how sales were doing, and how it could do better. And every day I was like, as somebody who could see the numbers, I was like, that is wrong. That's inaccurate. That is wrong. That's inaccurate. All right, great. Have a nice day. And I imagine people like Bobby and Todd who do want to be out in public.
Yeah.
People come up every day. Hey man, so on such and such figure, why is it that you're still not doing blank? And for this thing, why are you not doing this? And you raise your price by $2. And I feel like, you really didn't have to do that. Why did you? But they don't know the other side.
Yeah.
So like, even as somebody who critiques, and that's why I made that video the other day, talking about critiquing respectfully. Like,
Yes.
there's certain things that if I ran into somebody who I heavily critique, I'm
Mhm.
not going to say certain things because
Yeah.
I really don't know. If
Yeah.
they want to give me time of day and for some odd reason they're like, hey, give me some tough questions,
Yeah.
I can come up with those questions. But
Yeah.
me going up to that person to critique and ridicule and call out things,
Yeah.
it ain't a great experience for anybody. And
No.
that's something that I feel like somebody like Bobby probably had that issue at Hasbro, where there's an art to coaching up. And if you tell your boss or your boss's boss things along the lines of you're wrong, I'm right, here's why,
Mhm.
it never works out for you. All
Yeah.
they will do is say, have a nice day. And then they'll take your idea, if it is a good idea, pass it off as their own, and
Yeah.
continue the gears keep on turning.
And that's what Bobby said. There was a lot of times where he said, I wanted to impress them in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then when things weren't going their way, I would suggest, why aren't you doing it this way? Why aren't you doing it that way? And I'm sure they're probably listening to it and they're like, dude, why are you lecturing me? I've been doing this for years and you're just you're a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me what is good and what's not good?
Yeah.
Okay, when you are a big billion-dollar company, come back and you can tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what he's done. He's come back and said, okay, maybe I should have handled things a little differently.
Exactly.
Because they were just tuning him out and going, well, yeah, whatever. We'll just put him on this project. And so I don't have to hear him talk.
Yeah. He was right about something like the Mix and Mashers.
Oh, yeah.
He talked about that like a couple weeks ago. He was like, he was on that team of creating the Mix and Mashers, and they thought it was dumb and they shelved it. And then now it's a hot seller for them.
And they're re-putting it out, but calling it something different now.
Yeah.
And it's the same premise that he said that he was doing in the past. And he said, I think he said that he even did talk with kids on why they like to mash up certain figures with different figures. And he said that would have been a great success if Hasbro knew how to market it, and they didn't know how to market it.
But then you also had the licensee holders like Star Wars, who were like, you can't mix and match on the box,
right?
Because we want to try to maintain the visual of like Vader or Stormtrooper, that kind of thing.
Which is stupid because it's meant for kids to have fun.
Imagination.
There we go again. I think. Do you think Hasbro at some point is going to tell people no more Transformers, no more G.I. Joe? We're just a game board company.
No.
You don't think so?
No. I see all the signs why people would think that. And I've talked about it a number of times. They own those licenses, those two in particular. So I think as long as those brands respectfully make their own money and maintain themselves, then that just keeps their market value or market hold of physical action figures. All the Wizards of the Coast stuff.
Yeah.
That's what pays the bills.
Okay.
But the G.I. Joe team, if you guys start losing money, if you guys start dipping into the other pots to make up for your losses, now we got a problem.
Yeah.
But G.I. Joe, Transformers comes up quite a bit on the earnings calls. But G.I. Joe, Marvel Legends, Black Series, Ghostbusters, none of those things ever come up on earnings calls because they're making enough money to sustain themselves, but they don't make enough money to make it onto like an earnings call presentation.
Yeah.
They literally sustain themselves.
Yeah. What I find interesting is that the Ghostbusters HasLabs have done so well compared to other HasLabs. like the Marvels and the Black Series, vintage.
Yeah, GI Joe, Ghostbusters, and Transformers have not missed on their
Right.
HasLabs.
Yeah, and I just think some of the HasLabs are ridiculous. Like the Ghost Rider one was kind of ridiculous.
Engine of Vengeance, yeah.
Yeah, and then who does it?
Ramen,
Ace
yeah.
Ramen, and he's like, "Aha! I'm just gonna make my version," and Hasbro's gonna wish they did their version.
And he's dealing with his own issues now because he's the cease and desist letters are
Oh
ramping
yeah,
up.
oh yeah, and he got one from when he did the Aces of. Hang on one second. This line. Remember this line? Aces of Aviation?
Yeah.
He got one from Paramount because he mentioned the name Tom Cruise.
Yep.
And Tom and them weren't having it. And they're just like, cease and desist.
Mm-hmm.
Do not make a head that looks like Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Understandable.
But they did. They did. I mean, this looks like Tom Skerritt, if you could see. I don't know if you could see. Looks like Tom Skerritt, right?
It's a fine line.
And the reason I bought it because I loved Top Gun so much. I just wanted it for that. I didn't care if it looked like them. I just wanted figures like Viper and Maverick, which I think he missed. He should have done a Goose.
Yeah,
should have done a Goose. But he did the Sundowner guy. That was the guy that took over when Goose died. And he was trying to get him back up in the air. And
yeah,
I understand that he wasn't a very loved character, but you could have done Iceman. You could have done Goose. You could have done. I'm cool. I'm glad he did Maverick, and I'm glad he did Viper. But I'll tell you about Ace. When I got this, the helmets. He doesn't tell people that they're well built. So mine broke. I reached out to him and said, "Hey, can you send me a replacement?" He goes, "Why?" I said, "What do you mean why? It broke." "Oh, did you snap it?" "No. I took it off very carefully and it broke in half. And it was like 3 pieces. And he told me that they glued the pieces together. It wasn't molded as one. They glued 3 pieces so the visor moves up and down with the thing. And so he mocks me on my Instagram page, sends a voice message, which I still have today. And I've never put out anything, making him look bad. I could have. And even I have a comic review on the Comic Book Spotlight page here. I did a review on his figures. And I said very favorable things about him. And he didn't want to give me a replacement helmet. Finally, after all my bitching and whining, 6 months later, he gives me a replacement. You have the molds. If you know that it wasn't very good in the first place, why did you put it out?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said I would never buy from Ramen toys ever again and deal with Ace. But people love Ace for some reason. I don't know what it's about him.
He's nice, I guess, IRL. I know quite a few people who know him. And, those are the stories that I think maybe because they don't get out. That's why there's a perception. But he also has this underdog kind of thing going for him. I still haven't pulled the trigger on any ramen toy things, but it sucks about that story. And I'm definitely not going to keep that to myself, but I won't say it publicly.
Right. I just think, and if he watches I'm sure he does, watch my channel. if he wants to say anything. I even reached back out to him, and I was very nice about it. I said, "Thanks for shipping me out a helmet
Yeah.
after asking so many times." Uh, he could have just said, "Yeah, we made a mistake. Let me send you out a new helmet. It's not costing him that much."
Yeah.
But he made me feel like, why am I asking? And then he said, "Why are you reaching out to my social media?" And I said, "Because that's the only way I can get in contact with you is through your social media." And then he tried to say that I was talking to him on Facebook Messenger. I said, "No, I made a comment on your Facebook business page, which it's there for a reason. It's a business page.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't make a comment there, then what are you doing for your PR?" And this is what I should say to Ace: get a PR person to handle, because you don't know how to talk to your customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You might put out some good stuff. You might be breaching that thin line of what you should be not making or making, because they're not your intellectual properties. And Bobby even said it. He goes, "I admire Ace for what he's done, but I don't like that he's taken someone's intellectual property like Mask, A-Team, Maverick, Top Gun, and called it his own.
Mm-hmm.
It's not yours. You don't
Yeah.
own it."
Yeah.
Now, if he went to those, and he spoke to this on 3PLA, he said, "Well, what if I did go the route where I asked to license it? It's cost me more to put it out." Yeah, but you're doing the right thing. You're not being you're taking away from their plate. It's like you stealing
Mm-hmm.
from a kid. "Oh, you got that nice lollipop there. Well, let me just take it from you and I'll eat it." Well, that kid's not going to be too happy that you took his lollipop, right?
Yep. Yep.
But I'm not trying to bad ramen. If anybody wants to buy ramen toys, go right ahead. But my experience that I had with him doesn't hold up. And that's why when I do put my comic book out, I'm going to remember that. So if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, this first print of your comic book, there were some smears and things," I'm not going to go, "Well, that's not my problem. That's a publishing's problem." I'm going to go out of my own inventory and say, "Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a replacement."
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to come back and go, "I remember that. He gave me a replacement. He didn't have to. He gave me a free replacement."
Yeah.
Now that person's going to think, when my next issue comes out, I'm going to buy that issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's what we were talking about before. It's all about that impression that you leave on somebody.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I thank you so much for coming on Comic Book Spotlight.
Yeah, of course.
People, please subscribe to Nerd Affiliates. Hey Archer. Check him out on social media, Instagram. Give him a like. Give him a comment. Give him a follow. Give him a chance. Go on Thursdays. I'm always there. If I'm not there, I'm either busy doing something else, or I catch the replay. But I always try to comment. And I love that you respond to everybody and you go, "Thank you. Appreciate you watching my videos." I want to say one more thing. I love when you're just talking to these new videos where you're just talking about a subject.
The Daily Planet series. Yep.
Yeah. And maybe they're not going as you planned, and you're making fun of yourself. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I should not procrastinate," or, "Hey, I look better with a hat. Maybe I should hold a cigar." I thought that was funny. It's hilarious.
I'm glad. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that series, and people messaging me who I didn't even think watched my channel that I'm like, oh, that like. Actually, I had a phone call today from a friend who I think routinely forgets I even do YouTube. That was like, oh, what was up with this one video? And I'm like, oh, how did that even come across your your timeline, or you don't even have social media, like, you know?
Mhm.
So no, I really appreciate that.
And let's have you pitch what is going on next for you so people know and they can follow you.
Yeah.
So it's all you.
Yeah. So yeah, on YouTube, we are nerd affiliated. Do my live show every Thursday, 8:15ish p.m. And we have, coming down the pipe, we have a couple of Ghostbuster videos dropping from this past weekend. Um, I'm gonna, as I'm trying to figure out the channel, as I mentioned at the top of this show, I'm trying to do daily videos. I'm missing days here and there, but I'm trying my best to do a daily video. But we're gonna be talking more about, movies and toys and all that as time goes on. But we're definitely more active on Instagram. So if you are on Instagram, you can find me at Hey Archer on Instagram. The brand is, of course, Nerd Affiliated. And if you're into the Ghostbuster side of things, the Real Nerd Busters on Instagram. But if that's too many things to remember, nerdaffiliated.com, your one-stop shop for all things nerd affiliated.
Yeah. And Josh said, good program, y'all. I didn't chime in on the toy subject because I didn't know anything about toys.
Happens a lot on my stream too.
Yeah.
People check out the toys.
Yeah. My thing is, you don't really need to know about a lot about toys. It's just, it's out there. People buy them. I think it's more of a collector thing now than a kid thing, which is kind of sad. I would love to see kids getting back into toys. I don't care if it's Fortnite. I don't care if it's Minecraft. Do what makes you happy. And I think that's what you preach. Do what makes you happy. Be kind to one another. Have fun. And do everything that's nerdy,
There you go.
So thank you once again. We're going to go out with this thank you intro. And I want to thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.